Hello and welcome to another YouTube tutorial by Peakboard. In our last video, we already showed how to create smart workspaces with Peakboard, where a worker can quickly and easily enter data using a touch screen. In this process, the data was then transmitted to an SQL server. In our video today, we are going to show how we can create a cockpit dashboard based on that data, which allows the shift leader responsible to maintain direct oversight over all production lines. Besides this, we'll use this video to show how Peakboard directly sends an email to the shift leader if something important requires their attention. Right now, we are in the Peakboard Designer, where I'll first create the data source containing the data that we want to work with. For that, I'll click on Data, Add Data Source, and then select SQL Server as the data source. To do that, I'll first give the data source a name, and then enter my username and password, and the name of the database. Then I'll test whether the connection works. Next, I'll enter my SQL query and increase the maximum number of rows shown to 200. Now, we can go ahead and load the data from the SQL server. In our video, the shift leader is responsible for 5 production lines. To reflect that, our database has information regarding 5 machines. We now want to sort this information into 5 data flows. To do that, we'll click on Data Flows, Add Data Flow, before selecting the data source, machine data, that we just created. Now, we'll create a filter that sorts the data by its corresponding machine. To do that, we're going to click on Filter under Add Step in order to set up a new filter. This filter will later go through the data source, line by line, to check whether the content of the current column matches the corresponding machine name. In the current data flow, machine 1, we now have the data for the first machine. We're going to continue and do the same for the other 4 machines with one data flow for each one. Now we have all the data organized the way we need it, and can continue on with the visualization. We'll start by setting up a text box for the heading. Now, we'll set up a company logo, and now a line underneath, and I'll change the background to gray. Now we'll visualize the information from our SQL database. For that, we'll start by setting up a rectangle that will give a title matching one of the machine names. Next, we'll place a tile view over the rectangle. A tile view makes sense at any time that we want to show similar information in the same general schema in individual tiles. Now we're going to link the tile view to the data flow machine 1 using drag and drop. Here, we're first going to create our default tile by double-clicking on the tile view control. In the window that opens as a result, we can set up the default tile. First, we'll set the size of the template to 220 pixels wide and 100 pixels tall. The default tile is made up of a rectangle with a white background and a width of 200 pixels. That will be inserted on the left side. In the same way, we'll insert a text that's also 200 pixels wide, which we will link to the column Completed. Here, we'll also define that we want the resulting number to be formatted as a percentage. This is done using the property Format. Then we select percentage %EN with 0 decimal. The second text shows us the current process. In order to copy all of the current controls, we can use Ctrl-A and then Ctrl-C in order to copy everything. Now we confirm the dialog with OK. Now, we'll open the template selector of the tile view by clicking the button In the template selector, we can define exactly how information should be displayed, and under what conditions. That might sound complicated, but it'll become clearer shortly. We'll now create 3 templates. The first template should always be used when a process hasn't been started yet. The second template should be used when a process has been started, but hasn't finished yet. The last template, then, is used when the process is completed. Now we're going to open the first template by clicking on the button with the 3 lines. Here, we'll insert the controls and set the background color to gray. Then we can repeat the same process for the second and third template, though we'll change their respective background colors to blue and green. Via the gear icon, we can determine when a template should be used. For that, we'll click on the first template's gear icon. Here, we'll indicate that when the column completed is equal to 0, the template should be used. We verify that by clicking OK, and then we go on to open the settings for the second template with its respective gear icon. Here, we indicate that the template should be used when completed is greater than 0, but also less than 1. We confirm that again using OK, and then open the rule editor for the last template. Here, we'll indicate that the template should be used when completed is equal to 1. We then confirm the template dialog, and with that, we've finished setting up our first production line. Our default tile will only be used when none of the rules apply. Now, we're going to copy the individual parts of the visualization by selecting the rectangle and the tile view and reinserting it 4 more times using Ctrl-C and Ctrl-V. Now, we'll pull the correct data flows out of the Package Explorer to each tile view using drag and drop. To the right of the general overviews, we'll also display the current process step. The current step is a subset of the process and was discussed more in depth in our previous video. In order to keep this video short, we'll fill the text boxes with static texts instead of connecting them to the database. If you'd like to see how to connect these, you can download the completed example from the link in the description. Finally, we want to create a script that will inform the shift leader whenever a process is completed so that he can remove it. For this, we're going to make a refresh script that will be executed every time that the data source delivers new data. In order to keep things simple, we will not make sure that the email is only sent out once. In the script, we'll go over every line of our data source. We then test whether our current line index is divisible by 6. We do this because each machine has 6 steps, and we don't want to display any of the data from the previous machine in the current general overview. If the line is not divisible by 6, then we know we aren't in the first process of a machine. We then create a variable with the current and the last line. When the last line is completed, so that last completed equals 1, and the current line hasn't been started yet, so that current completed equals 0, we want to send an email to the shift leader saying that a process has been completed and now needs to be removed. We will confirm this with OK. With that, we're finished with our visualization. The template is available to you on our website, templates.peakboard.com, where you're welcome to download it. You can find the link in the description. Thanks, and until next time.